The first night I heard my name, I thought it was just the wind. I remember that clearly because nothing else made sense. The house sat deep in a rural part of West Java, surrounded by thick jungle and long stretches of dirt road. I had agreed to house sit for a family friend who was visiting relatives out of the country. It was supposed to be easy money, just feeding their cat and making sure the place didn't get broken into. They told me one thing before they left. After sunset, don't wander too far outside. I laughed it off at the time. It sounded like something older people say out of habit. But when I got there, I started to understand why they said it. The jungle didn't go quiet at night. It got louder. Not just insects, but things moving in the trees, branches snapping far away, leaves shifting like something was pacing just beyond sight. Still, the first evening went fine. I settled in, checked the locks, fed the cat, and sat in the living room scrolling through my phone. Around 10 p.m., the power flickered. Just once, then everything came back. I remember feeling a little uneasy, but I ignored it. At around 11:30, I heard it for the first time. "Rian?" That's my name. The voice was faint, stretched out, like it had traveled a long distance. I sat up slowly, listening. Silence. Just the usual sounds of the jungle. I told myself it was nothing, maybe someone from a nearby house, even though I hadn't seen any houses nearby when I arrived. I went to bed not long after, but I didn't sleep well. Every small sound felt sharper than it should have, and around 2 a.m., I heard it again. "Rian." This time, it was closer, not inside the house, but near it, right outside, maybe near the trees. I held my breath. The voice didn't sound normal. It sounded like someone trying too hard to sound calm, like they were calling me, but didn't know how. I got out of bed and walked quietly to the window. I didn't open the curtain. I just stood there, listening. "Rian?" It came again, softer, almost like a whisper. I stayed completely still. After a few seconds, I heard footsteps. Slow, dragging slightly, moving around the side of the house. That's when I stepped back from the window. I locked my bedroom door. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, everything felt normal again. Sunlight came through the windows. The jungle looked calm. Even the memory of the voice felt distant. I convinced myself I imagined it. But then I noticed something. Near the side of the house, the dirt looked disturbed, like someone had been walking there, back and forth. I stood there for a while, just staring at it. There were no clear footprints, just uneven marks, like something had been pacing. I told myself it could be an animal. It had to be. That evening, I decided to stay inside earlier. I locked all the doors before sunset, closed all the windows, even pulled the curtains down. I didn't want to hear anything from outside. Around 9 p.m., the power went out completely. No flicker this time, just darkness. I used my phone flashlight and lit a candle. The silence inside the house felt heavier without electricity. Every sound stood out, even my own breathing. And then, a knock. 3 slow taps from the front door. I froze. No one should have been out there. Not at that time. I didn't move. The knocking came again. Slower this time, more deliberate. Re-in. It came from the other side of the door. Clear.
Too clear. Not distant anymore. Right there. I felt my chest tighten. The voice sounded wrong. Not just unfamiliar, but empty. Like there was no emotion behind it. Just the shape of a voice. Re-in. Open. I backed away slowly. Every instinct told me not to respond, not even a word. The knocking stopped, but I could still hear something. Breathing, right outside the door. Heavy, uneven. I stayed in the corner of the room, holding my phone tightly. Minutes passed, or maybe longer. Eventually, the breathing stopped. No footsteps. No sound of someone leaving. Just silence again. I didn't sleep that night either. At sunrise, I checked the front door. Nothing. No footprints. No marks. It was like no one had been there. But I knew what I heard. The third night was the worst. I considered leaving, but I didn't want to seem paranoid. I told myself I could handle one more night. That was a mistake. Around midnight, the voice didn't come from outside. It came from inside the house. Ryan. I was sitting in the living room when I heard it, behind me, near the hallway. I turned slowly. Nothing. The hallway was dark. Ryan? Closer this time. I stood up, my legs shaking slightly. I knew the doors were locked. I had checked them twice. There was no way someone could be inside. And yet, I could hear it moving. Soft steps, barely audible, coming down the hallway. I grabbed a kitchen knife without thinking. Ryan? It stopped just outside the living room. I could feel it, something standing there, just out of sight, not moving, not breathing, just waiting. I didn't go closer. I couldn't. Instead, I backed away toward the front door, unlocked it, and stepped outside. The moment I did, the voice came one last time, right behind me, close to my ear. Don't leave. I ran. I didn't look back. I didn't go back for my things. I just kept running until I reached the main road. I never returned to that house. The owners came back a week later. They asked why I left. I told them everything. They didn't laugh. They didn't question it. They just nodded, and then the wife said something quietly. It started with my son, too. I didn't ask what she meant. I didn't want to know. I used to fish at night because it was quieter. Less people, less noise. Just the sound of water and the occasional boat in the distance. I thought it was peaceful until the night I heard someone talking from the water. It was along a coastal area in Sulawesi, a spot locals used, but not many stayed late. By midnight, it was usually empty. That's why I liked it. That night, I arrived around 10 p.m., set up my gear, cast my line, and just sat there. The tide was calm, almost too calm. The water looked flat, like glass. I remember thinking it felt strange, like the ocean wasn't moving the way it should.
but I ignored it. Around 11:30, I caught something small, nothing unusual. I reset my line and kept going. Then, around midnight, I heard a voice. At first, I thought it was someone on a boat, but there were no lights out there, no engines, just darkness. Hello? It was faint, coming from somewhere out on the water. I stood up and looked out. Nothing. Hello? Again, slightly clearer. I felt a chill. The voice sounded weak, like someone struggling. Help! That word carried more clearly. I stepped closer to the edge. Hello? I called out. No response, just silence. Then, a splash. Not loud, but close. Too close. Like something had surfaced just a few meters away. I leaned forward slightly, trying to see. The water was dark, almost black. And then I heard it again. But this time, it wasn't coming from far away. It was right below me. Help me! I stepped back immediately. My heart started pounding. That didn't make sense. No one could be right there without me seeing them. I grabbed my flashlight and pointed it at the water. The beam barely penetrated the surface, but for a second, I thought I saw something. Not clearly, just a shape, just beneath the water, still watching. I turned off the flashlight. I didn't want to see it again. I told myself it was just my imagination. Maybe someone had fallen in earlier. Maybe the sound was echoing. I tried to stay calm, sat back down, but I didn't cast my line again. I just waited, listened. Minutes passed. Then, why didn't you help? The voice came again, now louder, clearer, angrier, and still right below me. I stood up quickly, took a step back from the edge. I can't see you, I said. My voice sounded weak, even to myself. You saw me. I shook my head. No, I didn't. Silence. Then a slow, dragging sound, like something moving against the rocks under the water, coming closer, closer to the surface. I backed away further. Stay. The word came out stretched, almost distorted. I didn't wait anymore. I grabbed my bag and started packing quickly. My hands were shaking. I dropped things, didn't care. Don't go. The water moved, not like waves, but like something pushing upward from below. I didn't look again. I just ran. I left some of my equipment behind, didn't go back for it. The next day, I told a local fisherman what happened. He didn't seem surprised. He just nodded slowly and said something that stuck with me. Sometimes the sea doesn't forget. I asked him what he meant. He said a few months earlier, someone had drowned in that exact spot, at night, alone. They said his body wasn't found for 2 days, and when they did find it, it was far from where he went missing. I never went back there, but sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I still think about that voice and how it knew I was there before I ever said a word.
The house wasn't supposed to feel empty. It belonged to my uncle, a normal family home in a quiet neighborhood in Yogyakarta. I stayed there for a few weeks while he was away. At first, everything was fine. It felt like any other house, comfortable, familiar. But every night, after midnight, something changed. The first time I heard the footsteps, I thought someone had broken in. It was around 12:30 a.m. I was in bed, scrolling through my phone. Then I heard it.
a single step from the hallway. I froze, then another, slow, heavy, like someone walking carefully. I got up and checked. Nothing. Every door was locked, every window closed. I told myself it was just the house settling, old wood, temperature changes. That's what people say. The second night, it happened again, same time, 12:30. This time, I stayed in bed. I just listened. Step, pause, step, pause. It moved from one end of the hallway to the other, back and forth, for almost 10 minutes. Then it stopped, suddenly, like whoever was walking had just disappeared. I didn't sleep well after that. By the third night, I started to feel uneasy even before midnight. The house felt different after dark, heavier, quieter, like the air itself was thicker. At exactly 12:30, the footsteps started again. But this time, they didn't stay in the hallway. They came closer. Step, pause, step, closer, stopping just outside my door. I stared at the door, waiting. There was no handle movement, no knocking, just stillness. And then, a soft shift, like someone leaning against the door from the other side. I held my breath, didn't move, didn't speak. After a few seconds, the weight lifted, and the footsteps moved away again. Slow, deliberate. I didn't open the door. I couldn't. The next morning, I checked the hallway. Nothing unusual, no signs of anyone, but something felt off. The air smelled slightly different, like something had been there. I couldn't explain it. The fourth night was the breaking point. I stayed awake, watching the clock, waiting. 12:30, right on time. The footsteps started, but this time
they were faster, less controlled. Step, 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 moving quickly down the hallway, back and forth, over and over, like someone pacing or searching. I sat up. My chest felt tight. The sound stopped suddenly, right outside my door. Then, a whisper, so faint I almost didn't catch it. "Open." I didn't respond. "I know you're awake." My heart started racing. The voice sounded almost normal, but something about it felt wrong, like it didn't belong in the house. "Open the door." I shook my head, even though it couldn't see me. "I'm not opening it," I said quietly. Silence. Then, a soft laugh. Low, dry, not amused, just empty. The footsteps moved away again, but this time, they didn't go back to the hallway. They went deeper into the house, into rooms that should have been empty. I could hear doors opening, slowly, then closing, one by one, like something was checking every room. I stayed frozen in bed, listening, waiting. Eventually, everything went quiet.
Too quiet. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, I packed my things. I didn't wait for another night. Before I left, I called my uncle. I told him everything. There was a long pause on the phone. Then he asked one question. "Did it stop at your door?" I said yes. Another pause. Then he said, "It used to stop at mine too." I didn't ask anything else. I just left. I still think about that house sometimes, about those footsteps and the way they knew exactly where I was, every single night, at the exact same time, waiting just outside the door.